In these videos I'm going to go through some bits of maths you don't actually need to know for the exam, but it's just nice to find out where things you've been using all this time have come from. So have you ever wondered where the quadratic formula comes from? So here I've got a basic quadratic graph. It's a positive quadratic because it's the happy shape, and it's got two real roots, and I've marked them here and here. Now our roots are where our quadratic crosses the x-axis. So at this point our y-coordinate is 0 because we're on the x-axis. Now the general form of a quadratic curve is ax squared plus bx plus c equals, and normally you'd say y, but at this case we're looking for where it crosses our x-axis, so it equals 0. Now a, b and c are just numbers. They can be whole numbers, they can be fractions, they can be decimals, they can be surds, but we're looking at the general case. So rather than use particular numbers, we're just going to use letters. So starting with our general form of the quadratic curve, what I'm going to do now is divide through by a, because it just makes life a little bit easier. So we end up with x squared plus b over ax plus c over a, and it still all equals 0 because 0 divided by a is still 0. Now I'm going to use a technique called completing the square, which hopefully you remember from GCSE and you do need to know for your A levels. So I put x, and then if you remember you're completing the square, I halve this coefficient. So I've got b over 2a, that's half of my coefficient in front of my x. And again, if you remember it, you're completing the square, I need to take this away squared. So I've got minus b 2a, and that's all squared. And don't forget our c over a at the end, and it still all equals 0. So now we have x plus b over 2a, all squared. And then this here squared is just b squared. And 2a times 2a is 4a squared. And then I've still got my c over a equals 0. Right, so moving on, I have x plus b over 2a all squared, and I had my minus b squared over 4a squared plus c over a, and that equals 0. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to start tidying things up, and I'm going to move these to the right hand side. So I've got x plus b over 2a, and that is all squared, and I'm going to add this term to both sides, so I'm going to get b squared over 4a squared here, and I'm going to take that away from both sides, so I've got minus c over a. Now I really want to tidy this up, so I really want to put these over a common denominator. So if I times this by 4a on the bottom, you'll see that I've got 4a squared here. So I times the top by 4a as well. And what that then gives me is b squared minus 4ac, and now they're all over 4a squared. Okay, so we move on, and if you remember we had x plus b over 2a all squared, and that equaled b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. And I think you can begin to see where this is going. Next logical step is to square root both sides, so we end up with x plus b over 2a on this side, and on this side we get the square root of all of it, so we've got b squared minus 4ac over 4a squared. Now don't forget at this point that it is plus or minus, okay, because both are solutions. Right, and if you know your square root rules, you realise you can square root the top and bottom separately. So we've got plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and that should start to look very familiar. And that's over the square root of 4a squared. Now, the square root of 4a squared is just 2a. 2a times 2a gives you 4a squared. So we've got 2a on the bottom, and we've still got our b squared minus 4ac, plus or minus. Right, so what have we got now? We have x plus b over 2a, and that equals plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, and this should start looking very familiar. So the final thing to do is to take this term away from both sides. So we get x equals minus b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. You can see we're nearly there. They're both over the same denominator, so we can write them as one fraction, and we get x equals minus b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that is where the quadratic formula comes from.